Well, Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
He showed the common man being fed through gears of the brutal, dehumanizing industrial age. He took on the American right wing of his day. Its worst evils: hatred of immigrants, contempt for the truth, greed, and the abuse of power. We are fighting those same evils today. Sit in my room. Trump is toast.
I like that one. Trump is toast. Yeah, man. And so you just kind of digest the news of the day.
It's an affirmation.
I'm glad some good is coming out of this stuff. This is Robert Mueller.
Robert Mueller putting the squeeze on the president. Just to relieve the stress, you know what I mean?
Also happens to be Columbus/Indigenous Peoples Day, which is a federal holiday. Although with the government shutdown, every day now is a federal holiday. We're on day 13 with no end in sight. A majority of Americans blame Republicans for the shutdown. Republican leaders are still trying to blame Democrats for the shutdown, even though they control the House, the Senate, and the White House. It would be like Trump blaming January 6th on Joe Biden, which he actually did do yesterday.
One late-night host took aim at the president's obsession with magazine covers, while a legendary comedian and artist transformed him into a larger-than-life cartoon villain, using satire to spark conversations about politics that were impossible to ignore. Between Jimmy Kimmel and Jim Carrey, Donald Trump wasn't just the target of a few jokes now and then, he became the center of something much bigger, a strange blend of political theater, pop culture, and public spectacle. What made the whole thing stand out was that it wasn't happening at an awards show or inside some carefully managed Hollywood event. It felt raw, personal, and completely unfiltered, unfolding right in front of a live television audience. And if you're a fan of Jimmy Kimmel and Jim Carrey, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to show your support.
It's hard to understand what's going on. I mean, I really, one minute you feel like, oh my gosh, this is going to be, now the landslide's going to start. And then there'll be some other weaselly little, sidestep they do or whatever it is. And, this administration is a rabid dog, and it's turning us upside down. And as far as I'm concerned, it's as obvious as the nose on your face.
Look at this. The Biden FBI placed 274 agents into the crowd on January 6th. If this is so, which it is, a lot of very good people will be owed big apologies. What a scam. Do something, President DJT. Joe Biden planting 274 FBI agents in the crowd is diabolical, especially considering the fact he somehow did this 2 weeks before becoming president. For a brain-dead vegetable, he couldn't even sign his own name. Somehow Joe Biden was able to get a lot of stuff.
Fast forward to October 2025, and the energy on Jimmy Kimmel Live was already through the roof. The stage was glowing in bright red, the crowd was fully locked in, and you could feel the tension from yet another chaotic news cycle hanging over the room. Then Kimmel walked out holding the latest issue of Time magazine, instantly setting up a moment that grabbed everyone's attention. Earlier that evening, reports claimed the president had spent hours on Truth Social criticizing the magazine cover, focusing on everything from the lighting and camera angle to the shadows on his suit. Looking straight into the camera, Kimmel delivered a joke that landed right away with the audience, pointing out how hard it was to believe that someone with so much on their plate could spend that much time worrying about a magazine cover.
Trump had what was easily the most presidential day of his life. He was front and center on the world stage, signing a ceasefire in the Middle East, and then he got home, he started going through the internet, and he just couldn't help himself. Trump made the cover of Time magazine, which he usually loves. Before he was president, he had fake Time magazine covers hanging on the walls of his golf club, for real. But this one, I guess, conjured up some mixed feelings because of the photo they used. It's upset him so much that at 1:36 a.m. he posted, Time magazine wrote a relatively good story about me, but the picture may be the worst of all time.
The audience burst out laughing almost immediately. The segment only lasted a few minutes, but it ended up saying something much bigger than the joke itself. At a time when major issues were dominating headlines around the world, Kimmel painted a picture of a president who seemed far more focused on his public image than anything else. What made the moment hit so well was that he barely had to exaggerate. The situation already felt absurd on its own. By the next morning, the clip had spread well beyond the show, with multiple media outlets picking up the story and highlighting Kimmel's criticism of what many people saw as yet another very public response driven by vanity and a constant obsession with appearances.
Disappeared my hair and then had something floating on top of my head that looked like a floating crown, but an extremely small one. Really weird. Now I want to go back to that cover and show you this crown. Okay, that's not a crown, that's the letter M. Only he would see an M on his head and assume it's a crown. If that's not an M, you're on the cover of Time magazine, okay? Finally being honored for wearing that tie down to your knees. Every morning is a game of who am I mad at today? Is it the Cracker Barrel logo? Is it windmills? Is it Bad Bunny? Is it the Nobel Prize? Or is it the turkey vagina slapping around it?
The contrast was impossible to miss. While a serious magazine cover sat on the screen, Kimmel kept firing off jokes, turning the whole situation into something that felt like a modern political cartoon playing out live in front of the audience. What made it work so well was that the comedy delivered the criticism without feeling forced or over the top. People could laugh at the jokes while still picking up on the message underneath. But the story didn't end there. Things got even more heated when an old feud suddenly came back to life. Just a few weeks earlier, in September 2025, Kimmel had returned from a short break from late-night television, and almost right away, Trump posted on Truth Social claiming that Kimmel's ratings were falling and that viewers were losing interest in the show.
Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, telling an American company, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and that these companies can find ways to change conduct and take action on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead, in addition to being a direct violation of the First Amendment, is not a particularly intelligent threat to make in public. Ted Cruz said he sounded like a mafioso. Although, I don't know, if you want to hear a mob boss make a threat like that, you have to hide a microphone in a deli and park outside in a van with a tape recorder all night long. This genius said it on a podcast. Brendan Carr is the most embarrassing car Republicans have embraced since this one. And that's saying something.
But the actual numbers seem to tell a completely different story. Kimmel's return episode drew in around 6.3 million viewers, making it one of the biggest and most watched broadcasts of his career in recent years. The very next night, he answered the criticism the way he knows best, with a smile, perfect timing, and a joke that immediately clicked with the audience. Looking straight into the camera, he playfully wondered whether anyone had ever been fired over bad ratings in the middle of a Wednesday. The crowd laughed right away, and the moment felt like more than just a punchline. It came across as a confident response delivered with exactly the right balance of humor and self-assurance. Television insiders praised it as a near-perfect comeback moment, and even some conservative commentators admitted the joke landed exactly the way it was meant to.
And you almost have to feel sorry for the people who work for him, who try to clean up the messes. They've been bending over backwards to say, oh, he never threatened. J.D. Vance today made the claim that what the FCC chairman said was a joke, which, I don't know, maybe that was a joke? I don't know. They go to all these lengths to say, oh, it wasn't coercion, the president was just musing. And then the second Trump is alone, he sits on the toilet, he gets his grubby little thumbs on his phone, and he immediately blows their excuses to smithereens and says, it was ratings that got me fired. Has anyone ever been fired for bad ratings on a Wednesday?
Kimmel's approach has always been pretty straightforward and consistent. Rather than targeting ordinary people, he usually focuses on putting powerful figures under the spotlight and letting their own words do most of the talking. Every online outburst becomes material for a joke, every bold claim turns into the setup for a punchline, and every denial creates an opportunity to look back at what was said before. Whenever Trump posts something online, Kimmel reads it to his audience. When Trump praises himself, Kimmel often turns it into a parody, and when Trump pushes back on a claim or disputes a story, Kimmel frequently brings up old clips and lets viewers decide for themselves. Over the years, Trump's constant presence on social media has provided a never-ending stream of material, helping fuel monologues that many people see as a blend of comedy, criticism, and commentary all at once.
Even allowed to show his neck on TV. Wouldn't it be funny if the FCC fined us for showing his neck on TV? Trump went on, I never like taking pictures from underneath angles, but this is a super bad picture and deserves to be called out. What are they doing and why? It's like he's a TikTok influencer yelling at her boyfriend for not knowing her angles. The photographer for Time could not be reached for comment. He is currently en route to El Salvador, but poor Kim Jong-un, his big day is ruined, and I'll tell you what, if he doesn't like the cover photo, wait till he sees the back of the magazine. I don't know how he's going to spank himself.
The situation seemed to change almost overnight when breaking news came in that Trump had received a guilty verdict. The show had to adapt in real time, with scripts being revised right up until airtime. You could feel the mood shift as anticipation spread through the studio and everyone realized they were witnessing a major news moment. When Kimmel finally walked onto the stage, he had the verdict paperwork in one hand and his cue cards in the other. Keeping a completely straight face, he began by acknowledging how unprecedented the situation was, then quickly followed it with a much sharper joke aimed directly at Trump. That balance between seriousness and comedy landed right away, and the audience responded instantly, recognizing both the significance of the moment and the humor woven into it.
John Trump is guilty of 34 felony charges. On the first charge of falsifying business records.
Guilty.
On the second charge.
Guilty.
On the third charge.
Guilty.
On the next 31 charges.
Guilty. 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 Guilty.
That's right. Guilty. Like that. Poor Donald Trump, 7 weeks of sleep farting, all down the drain, all for nothing. You do have to hand it to him. No president has ever been convicted more than Donald Trump. How long before he starts bragging about it?
The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. The audience laughed, erupted into applause, and then started laughing all over again. For many viewers, it felt like much more than just another late-night joke. After years of non-stop political drama dominating the headlines, the moment seemed to provide a rare sense of release. Many commentators described the monologue as a form of collective relief delivered through humor, giving people a chance to process a serious event by laughing together. Kimmel had spent years finding ways to bring comedy into an often chaotic political landscape, but that night felt different. For a brief moment, he seemed to step into a role that felt bigger than that of a typical late-night host. At the same time, while Kimmel was using jokes and sharp one-liners to challenge Trump, Jim Carrey was preparing to tackle the same subject in a completely different way through art, imagery, symbolism, and a style of satire that could say a lot without needing many words at all.
It's a stress reliever.
And here we have...
That's Space Force.
That's the Space Force, yeah.
That's the beginning of Space Force. That's right. Makes me feel good.
When you were a kid, would you draw caricatures of your friends, etc.?
I did. I drew pictures of my teacher.
Oh, really?
And I don't have any of those with me. She actually stole... Wow, look at this. I can do anything with it.
Go back to September 2018, when Jim Carrey appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live carrying a collection of political artwork that had already been generating a lot of attention. Spread across the desk were bold, colorful, and at times unsettling images featuring Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and the world surrounding them. Holding up one of the illustrations with a slight smile, Carrey explained that creating these pieces had become a major part of his life. He said he wanted people to remember what they were seeing and living through during that period in history. As Kimmel flipped through the artwork, the audience responded with a mix of curiosity and nervous laughter. Some of the drawings showed exaggerated versions of Trump, while others focused on controversial political issues, including immigration policies. Looking through the collection, Kimmel acknowledged the strong emotional impact of the artwork, making it clear that these pieces were meant to spark a reaction and leave a lasting impression.
Make a bad decision about a candidate. It's not who you are. It doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean you're different. It doesn't mean, the trouble with what's happening right now is these really negative forces like the Steve Bannons of the world are convincing us that we're separate, that we're not the same country, that there's two countries. There's not two countries. I can break bread with anybody in this country. I love people in this country. I love the heartland of this country. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, it's become obvious that the choice was a bad one. We just need to change it. And if you can't vote for a Democrat, at least let all this flood of information that's so negative and so obvious.
Carrey's response was pretty straightforward. He said the times themselves were intense, and that real art isn't always meant to make people comfortable, sometimes it's meant to challenge them instead. What came out of that interview felt like more than just a celebrity sharing personal sketches. It came across as a kind of public statement about where he stood and why he was doing it. The actor who once built his name on physical comedy and wild, over-the-top characters had clearly shifted into a completely different space, presenting himself as a political artist responding to a deeply divided era. Every brushstroke, every color choice, and every caption seemed to carry frustration, urgency, or concern, all expressed through satire. Instead of focusing on surface-level details like appearance or gestures, his work tried to capture the emotional atmosphere of the political moment itself. Later on, critics would describe the collection as a modern mix of political commentary, visual storytelling, and internet-age symbolism.
For those who think I go too hard on Donald Trump, to the point where there are still a lot of people who think I should be pulled off the air for making fun of Donald Trump. So I want to explain that I talk about Trump more than anything because he's a bully. I don't like bullies. I played the clarinet in high school, okay? So I just don't like him. Donald Trump is an old-fashioned 80s movie-style bully, taking your lunch money. And if you give it to him once, he'll take it again. Two things he loves, lunch and money, okay? He will take that peanut butter and jelly sandwich your mom cut in half like a triangle for you. He will gobble it up in front of your face, and then he'll eat your little Ziploc bag of Oreos, too. And he'll take the note your mother put in your lunchbox, and he'll read it aloud to everyone. Oh, look, Mommy loves her little boy. And then he'll smile with a bunch of cookies in his teeth.
Obamagate. It's been going on for a long time. It's been going on.
On Kimmel's stage, though, the message felt a lot more direct and simple. It came across as a comedian using humor and creativity to document history as it was unfolding in real time. Then there was another moment that showed just how serious comedy had become. On October 3, 2020, Saturday Night Live returned with its classic debate Cold Open, where Jim Carrey stepped into the role of Joe Biden opposite Alec Baldwin's Trump. The sketch recreated the chaos of the first presidential debate, packing all the interruptions, arguments, and tension into a fast-moving comedy performance that closely mirrored the real political headlines dominating the country at the time.
Speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple. Just like dominoes, one by one, they'll go down.
That was also in 2022, and I wonder, how did that guy turn into this guy?
Who would you like to see replace Kimmel on late night?
Well, a lot of people, anybody could replace him. The guy had no talent. Kimmel look, he was fired, he had no talent. He's a whack job, but he had no talent, and more importantly than talent, he had no, because a lot of people have no talent, they get ratings. But he had no ratings.
Well, I do tonight.
Carrey played Biden as someone desperately trying to keep control of a conversation that felt almost impossible to manage, constantly pushing to restore some sense of order. Meanwhile, Baldwin's version of Trump powered through every exchange without slowing down, and the audience loved it, laughing throughout the performance. What made the sketch so interesting, though, was that it didn't feel overly exaggerated. In many moments, it felt more like a replay of things viewers had already seen with their own eyes. The real debate had been so chaotic that the parody often ended up looking surprisingly close to reality. In a lot of ways, the sketch highlighted how modern politics had started to resemble a kind of entertainment spectacle, with Trump staying firmly at the center of attention. Critics praised the segment for blending comedy with real-time political commentary so effectively that it worked both as a sketch and as a reflection of the political moment.
Teflon, maybe he's one of those sticky trapped for rats. We don't know. Maybe he's a wet pocket full of gummy worms. After the verdict, a PO'd former POTUS marched over to reporters outside court to let his displeasure be known.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA, and the whole thing, we didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man. And it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution.
What really connects Jimmy Kimmel and Jim Carrey isn't just that they were willing to criticize a president. It's the way both of them took something already shaped like a public spectacle and turned it into a reflection of much bigger ideas. Kimmel does it through the late-night format, using humor to explore themes like ego, power, and public behavior almost every night. Carrey approaches those same subjects from a completely different angle, using acting, painting, and visual satire to make his point. Both perform in front of audiences, both get immediate reactions, and both seem driven by the idea that when traditional accountability feels distant or ineffective, comedy can still make people stop, pay attention, and think. That became even more clear when Trump himself started responding directly to the criticism.
I was not a fan of Jeffrey Epstein, and you watched people yesterday saying that I threw him out of a club. I didn't want anything to do with him. That was many, many years ago. It shows you one thing, that I have good taste, okay? Now, other people, they went all over with him. They went to his island. They went all over the place. He was very well known in Palm Beach. His island, whatever his island was, wherever it is, I was never there. Find out the people that went to the island. But Jeffrey Epstein was not somebody that I respected. I threw him out. In fact, I think the great James Patterson, who's a member of Mar-a-Lago, made a statement yesterday that many years ago I threw him out. I'm not a fan of Jeffrey Epstein. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I want you to know sometimes when I watch you striding across the White House lawn so confidently, with so much masculinity, I'll admit it, I get sexually aroused. Thank you for breathing life back into my once slumbering penis.
That was very well stated, listen.
Almost every joke Kimmel made seemed to spark another reaction online. And while many of Carrey's paintings were criticized by some conservative commentators who called them offensive or over the top, that backlash often ended up having the opposite effect of what critics intended. The more attention the controversy got, the more curious people became, and the more they started paying attention. By the middle of 2025, Kimmel's Trump-focused monologues were regularly trending across social media, reaching audiences far beyond traditional late-night television. At the same time, exhibitions featuring Carrey's artwork were drawing in thousands of visitors, many of whom first discovered his work through TV interviews, online discussions, and viral clips. As all of this played out, the line between artistic expression and political activism started to feel harder and harder to define.